The alarms screamed through the ship like dying animals. Captain Daewon gripped his command chair as another explosion rocked the hull. Red emergency lights painted everything in blood. Shield generator is down. His second officer shouted over the chaos. Hull breach on decks 4 and 5. Daewon watched the tactical display. 6 Caltheri warships surrounded his frigate like wolves circling wounded prey. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, was never meant to fight this many enemies at once. They were a scout vessel, fast and smart, not built for war. "Get the crew to the escape pods," Daewon ordered. His voice was calm despite the fire spreading through his bridge. "All hands abandon ship." "That's an order." His crew looked at him. They knew what this meant. If they left, Daewon would stay behind. Someone had to wipe the computer systems, destroy the intel cores, make sure the Caltheri got nothing useful from the wreckage. "Sir, we can't just leave you," his second officer started. "Go, now." Daewon's tone left no room for argument. "That's a direct order." One by one, his crew fled the bridge. Daewon watched them go, then turned to his console. His fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating the data purge sequence. Every file, every mission log, every piece of information about Earth's defenses would be gone in 3 minutes. The ship shuddered again. Life support was failing. The air was getting thin. Daewon could feel it in his lungs, that tight sensation that meant oxygen was running out. 2 minutes, another impact. The bridge ceiling cracked. Sparks rained down on his shoulders. The tactical display flickered and died. Daewon kept typing, watching the progress bar crawl forward. 1 minute. The main door exploded inward. Caltheri soldiers poured through, their armor gleaming like black ice. They moved with the confidence of predators who knew they'd already won. Their weapons were aimed at Daewon's head. 30 seconds. "Step away from the console, human," the lead soldier growled in broken English. The translator implant in his throat made his voice sound like grinding metal. Daewon kept typing. "I said step away." 20 seconds. A blast of energy hit the console beside Daewon's hand. The heat burned his skin, but he didn't move. Just a little more time. 10 seconds. Strong hands grabbed him, yanked him away from the controls. Daewon fought, but there were too many of them. They slammed him to the floor. His head cracked against the metal. Stars exploded in his vision. 5 seconds. Through blurry eyes, Daewon saw the progress bar on his console. 98%. 99%. A Caltheri soldier raised his weapon and fired. The console exploded in a shower of sparks and melted plastic. The data purge stopped at 99%. Daewon closed his eyes. So close, so damn close, they dragged him off his dying ship. Through the airlock, across a docking tube, into the belly of a Caltheri warship. The air there was too hot, too dry. It smelled like sulfur and oil. His lungs burned with every breath. They threw him into a cell. The walls were smooth metal, cold to the touch. No windows, no furniture, just 4 walls and a floor. Daewon sat down and waited. Hours passed. Maybe days. Time was strange in the cell. The lights never changed. No one brought food or water. Daewon's throat was dry as sand. Finally, the door opened. 2 guards entered, grabbed his arms, and hauled him down a long corridor. Other cells lined the walls, filled with prisoners from a dozen different species. They all looked broken, hollow, like the life had been sucked out of them. They brought him to a large chamber. In the center stood a Caltheri in ornate armor, his chest covered in medals. His eyes were yellow like a snake's eyes, and they looked at Daewon with something between curiosity and contempt. "I am Emperor Valth," the alien said. His English was perfect, much better than his soldiers. "Do you know why you're here, human?" Daewon said nothing. "Your people are weak, soft. You hide behind your technology, but you have no honor, no strength." Valth circled Daewon like a shark. "We will show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the Caltheri Empire." Daewon felt hands on his shoulders, pushing him down to his knees. "You will tell us everything," Valth continued. "Your defense codes, your fleet positions, your hidden bases, and then you will be displayed as a trophy so all can see what happens to Earth's warriors." "I'm just a scout captain," Daewon said quietly. "I don't know anything useful," Valth laughed. It was a harsh sound like breaking glass. "We shall see." They took him to another place. A fortress prison called the Crimson Spire. It sat in the middle of the Caltheri capital city. A massive tower of red stone that reached toward the sky like an accusing finger. Inside, they put him in an energy cage. It was like living inside a box of light. The walls were transparent, made of some kind of force field. People could see him from all sides. Caltheri citizens walked past, pointing and laughing. Some threw things. Most just stared. This was the point. Humiliation. Breaking the spirit before breaking the body. Daewon stood in his cage and looked out at the alien city. Somewhere far away, Earth was receiving news of his capture. Protocol was clear. They would send a diplomatic request for prisoner exchange. The Caltheri would refuse. Then negotiations would begin, but Daewon had clearance for classified files. He knew things most soldiers didn't know. He knew what happened when someone captured a human and refused to give them back. He knew about the retrieval protocol. 3 days after his capture, Earth's diplomatic corps sent the standard message. It was polite, professional, formal. They requested Daewon's release in exchange for Caltheri prisoners held on Earth. Emperor Valth broadcasted his response across the entire empire. He stood before cameras, smiling his predator's smile, and said one word. No. The galaxy watched. Some species nodded in approval. The Caltheri were strong, they said. They showed no weakness. Others remained silent, their leaders reading reports and watching the news with worried expressions. On Earth, something changed. The constant chatter of military communications went quiet. The border patrols pulled back. Trade ships continued their routes, but every military vessel disappeared from known space. To the Caltheri, this looked like retreat, like fear. They celebrated in the streets. But in a small office deep inside Earth's Defense Command, a woman named Jiwoo received new orders. She read them twice, then stood and walked to her locker. Inside was a black uniform with no insignia, no rank, no identification. She put it on and headed for the hangar bay. In his energy cage on the Caltheri homeworld, Daewon counted days. He knew his crew had escaped. He knew Earth had received the news. He knew the clock was ticking. The Caltheri didn't understand what they'd done. They thought they'd captured a prize. They thought they'd shown strength. They had no idea they'd just made the worst mistake in their empire's history. Daewon sat down in his cage and closed his eyes. All he could do now was wait and hope he survived long enough to be rescued, because he knew with absolute certainty that someone was coming. The only question was whether the Caltheri would survive the rescue. The interrogation room was cold. Daewon sat in a metal chair, his hands bound behind his back. His left eye was swollen shut. Blood dried on his lip. They'd been at this for hours. The Caltheri interrogator paced in front of him. His name was Torvin, and he seemed to enjoy his work too much. "Just give us the access codes," Torvin said, his voice almost gentle. "We already have most of your ship's data. 1% survived your little deletion trick. We just need you to fill in the gaps." Daewon stared at the wall and said nothing. "Stubborn." Torvin sighed. "Your people always are. But everyone breaks eventually." The pain device activated. Electric fire shot through Daewon's body. His muscles locked, his teeth clenched so hard he thought they might crack. It lasted 10 seconds but felt like 10 hours. When it stopped, Daewon gasped for air, his vision swam. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard Torvin speaking again. "Tomorrow we'll try again. And the day after. And the day after that. However long it takes." They dragged him back to his cage. Daewon collapsed on the floor, his body still shaking from the shocks. Around him, other prisoners watched with dead eyes. They'd seen this before. They knew how it ended. Days blurred together. Interrogation, pain, cage, sleep, repeat. Daewon lost track of time. He focused on small things to keep his mind sharp, counting his breaths, remembering faces of his crew, reciting old poetry his mother taught him when he was young. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other species were starting to worry. The Vryn Collective was an old race, older than the Caltheri, older than humans. They'd seen empires rise and fall. They knew the patterns. When their intelligence division reported that all human military vessels had vanished from every border, their council of elders called an emergency session. "This is not retreat," Elder Morvax said, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "This is preparation." "Preparation for what?" another elder asked. "I don't know. But the humans don't do anything by accident. When they go silent, it means something is coming. The Vryn sent a private message to Emperor Valth. It was polite but firm. Release the human captain. This is not worth the price you will pay. Valth's response was public and mocking. He broadcasted it across the empire. The Vryn have grown soft in their old age. They fear shadows. The Calthari fear nothing. The Vryn collective quietly moved, their ships away from Calthari space and sealed their borders. In his office high in the Crimson Spire, intelligence officer Vex Thorin studied reports with growing unease. Vex was unusual for a Calthari. He preferred data to glory, analysis to combat. It made him valuable, but also isolated. Warriors didn't trust soldiers who thought too much. The reports on his desk were troubling. In the past 2 weeks, 17 Calthari military ships had disappeared near the border with human space. No debris, no distress signals, no survivors. Just gone. The official explanation was technical failures or pirate attacks. But Vex had checked the data. These were military vessels, well-maintained, traveling on secure routes. The chances of 17 separate failures were astronomically small. Something was taking them. Vex pulled up old intelligence files on Earth. Most were standard information. Population data, industrial capacity, military strength. But buried deep in the classified section, he found fragments of stolen human documents. The theft had happened years ago, before anyone knew humans would become important. One file was heavily corrupted, but its title was clear: Retrieval Protocol Omega. Vex opened it. Most of the text was unreadable, destroyed by some kind of digital weapon that had triggered when the file was copied. But he could read pieces. Fragments. Words that sent ice through his blood. Single operator deployment. Total asset authorization. No negotiation parameters. Acceptable casualties, unlimited. The last readable line made Vex stand up from his chair. When diplomacy fails, send a Reaper. He tried to access more information, but the files were too damaged. He searched the human networks they'd infiltrated, looking for any mention of Reaper or retrieval protocol. Nothing. The humans had scrubbed their systems clean. Vex went to his commander, a scarred veteran named Crothar. He showed him the reports, the missing ships, the fragments of the file. Crothar laughed. You're afraid of human ghosts? They're running away, Vex. Their silence proves it. Does it? Vex asked. Or are they clearing the space for something? You think too much. It makes you weak. Crothar waved him away. Go back to your desk. Vex returned to his office, but he couldn't let it go. He started tracking everything. Human ship movements, communication patterns, energy readings. For 40 days, he watched and waited. Then Earth finally sent another message. It wasn't diplomatic this time. No polite language, no formal requests. Just a simple statement broadcasted on every frequency in every known language. Release Captain Day One unharmed within 72 hours, or face the consequences. Emperor Valth was furious. He saw it as an insult, a challenge to his authority. He called a meeting of his high command. The humans dare to threaten us? Valth's voice echoed through the war room. We will show them the price of insolence. Perhaps we should consider, one advisor began. Consider what? Weakness? Fear? Valth slammed his fist on the table. Bring me 3 human prisoners, the ones we captured last month. They brought 3 humans from the prison levels. Merchants, not soldiers. Unarmed. Terrified. Valth had them executed on live broadcast, their deaths transmitted across the galaxy as his response to Earth's ultimatum. This is what happens to those who threaten the Calthari Empire, Valth declared to the cameras. Vex watched the broadcast from his office and felt something he rarely experienced. Fear. Not for himself. For his entire species. He pulled up the tracking data again. 71 hours and 59 minutes remained until Earth's deadline. Vex made a decision. He would monitor everything personally. If something was coming, he would be the first to know. In his cage, Day One heard about the executions. Other prisoners whispered the news. 3 humans killed in response to Earth's ultimatum. Day-One closed his eyes and felt anger burn through the exhaustion and pain. The Calthary had just escalated this beyond retrieval. This was now about retribution. Day-One knew the protocol better than most. There were levels. Level 1 was simple extraction. Get in, get the prisoner, get out with minimal casualties. Level 2 involved more aggressive action. Disable defenses, extract the prisoner, leave a message. Level 3 was reserved for enemies who killed prisoners. Level 3 meant making an example. The deadline approached. Across Calthary space, everything seemed normal. Their fleets patrolled. Citizens went about their lives. Emperor Valth sat in his throne room, confident and pleased with himself. In his office, Vex watched his monitors with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Every sensor network, every deep space probe, every listening post. 72 hours came and went. Nothing happened. Valth laughed. The humans are cowards, he announced. They make empty threats. But Vex kept watching, because he knew something his emperor didn't understand. Humans didn't make empty threats. If they said 72 hours, they meant it exactly. He checked the chronometer. 72 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. The deadline had passed 3 seconds ago. Then every sensor in Calthary home system screamed at once. Something had arrived. Vex's screens filled with data. His hands flew across the keyboard trying to make sense of what he was seeing. It was a ship, single vessel. But the readings made no sense. The mass was wrong. The energy signature was impossible. Space itself seemed to bend around it. What in the stars, Vex whispered. Alarms began wailing throughout the Crimson Spire, throughout the capital city, throughout the entire planet. Red emergency lights painted everything the color of blood. Something had come for Day-One, and the 72 hours of waiting were over. The ship didn't look like it should exist. Vex stared at his monitors, trying to understand what his sensors were telling him. The vessel was there, clearly visible on every scanner, but it didn't reflect light the way normal objects did. It seemed to drink in the starlight, leaving a hole in space shaped like a ship. Report. Commander Crothar burst into Vex's office. What is that thing? I don't know, Vex said honestly. His fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling up every piece of data. It's human design, but it's not in any of our databases. It's like nothing they've ever built before. Size? Small. Maybe the size of a Corvette. Single occupant based on life support readings. Crothar laughed, but it sounded nervous. One ship? One pilot? The humans send this against our entire home fleet? Vex didn't answer. He was reading the energy signatures. They were wrong. All wrong. The power output from that small ship exceeded a battleship. The defensive fields registered at levels that should be impossible. Contact them, Crothar ordered. Demand they identify themselves. Vex opened a communication channel. Unknown vessel, you have entered Calthary sovereign space. Identify yourself and state your intentions. For a long moment, there was only static. Then a voice came through. Female, calm, speaking perfect. Calthary. I am Jiwoo of Earth. I'm here for Captain Day-One. Bring him to the landing platform outside the Crimson Spire in 1 hour, unharmed. If you refuse, I will come in and get him. You won't survive that. The transmission ended. Crothar's face turned dark red. The arrogance! One human threatens an entire world? Vex was reading historical files, his mind racing. Commander, I think we should consider her offer. Are you mad? I've been studying Earth's patterns. They don't bluff. If she says she'll come get him, she means it. And look at the ship. Look at those power readings. We don't know what weapons it carries. Then we'll destroy it before she can use them. Alert the home fleet. I want every ship in orbit converging on that vessel. We'll turn it into dust, Crothar stormed out. Vex sat alone in his office, a sick feeling in his stomach. He pulled up the corrupted file again. When diplomacy fails, send a Reaper. Was Jiwoo a Reaper? And if so, what did that mean? Outside, in the black space above the Calthary homeworld, 200 warships moved into position. They surrounded the strange dark ship from all sides. Weapons charged, targeting systems locked on. Inside the Crimson Spire, guards rushed to reinforce every entrance. Automated defenses came online. Energy shields activated around the prison levels. Emperor Valth himself came down to the command center to watch. In his cage, Daewon heard the alarms and felt his heart beat faster. They'd come. He didn't know who, didn't know how, but Earth had sent someone. He stood up, ignoring the pain in his ribs, and watched the guards running past. Jiwoo's voice came through again, broadcasted to the entire planet. 59 minutes. Emperor Valth grabbed a communication console. Human, you are surrounded by 200 warships. You are one ship with one pilot. Surrender now and we may show you mercy. Jiwoo's response was just 3 words. 58 minutes. Valth's face twisted with rage. Fire, all ships, open fire. Destroy that vessel. 200 ships fired at once. The space around the human ship lit up like a newborn star. Energy beams, missiles, plasma bolts, kinetic rounds. Every weapon in the Kelthari arsenal poured destruction toward the small dark ship. When the light faded, the ship was still there, untouched. The weapons had simply vanished before reaching it, absorbed or deflected by some kind of defensive system nobody understood. 57 minutes, Jiwoo said calmly. Vex watched the battle data in horror. The ship wasn't just defending itself. It wasn't fighting back at all. It was just sitting there, ignoring everything they threw at it, like it was waiting. Emperor, Vex said carefully, I strongly recommend we release the prisoner. Never. Valth was beyond reason now. Send in the heavy cruisers. Use the planet breaker cannons. Crack that ship open. 4 massive cruisers moved forward. Their main guns could destroy small moons. They charged their weapons, energy building to levels that made the space around them glow. Then they fired. The beams hit the dark ship and simply stopped, frozen in space. For a moment, everyone watching could see the raw energy suspended in front of the ship like a wall. Then it reversed. The beams flew back toward the cruisers that had fired them. 2 cruisers dodged. 2 were hit by their own weapons. They broke apart in silence, pieces tumbling away into space. 55 minutes, Jiwoo said. The Kelthari fleet backed away. Vex could see it on the tactical display. Individual captains making the decision to retreat, pulling their ships back from the dark vessel that couldn't be hurt, couldn't be stopped. Commander Crothar came back to Vex's office, his confidence gone. What is that thing? What is she? I told you, she's what happens when we take a human prisoner and refuse to return them. One person can't do this. It's impossible. It's happening right now. Vex pointed at the display, and in 54 minutes she's going to do something worse. Deep in the Crimson Spire, in the highest security level, Emperor Valth stood surrounded by his elite guards. He was watching the displays, watching his mighty fleet fail against a single ship. His pride wouldn't let him surrender, but his survival instinct was starting to scream. Bring the human prisoner to me, he ordered. We'll use him as a shield. She won't attack if it means killing him. Guards rushed to Daewon's cage. They deactivated the energy field and grabbed him roughly. Daewon didn't resist. He knew what was happening. He knew the plan. He'd seen it in the classified files. They dragged him through corridors to an elevator, then up to the command level. Emperor Valth waited there, surrounded by soldiers. He grabbed Daewon by the throat and forced him toward a window that looked out over the city. Tell your rescuer to leave, Valth hissed, or I'll kill you right here. Daewon looked at the Emperor and almost felt sorry for him. You don't understand. She's not here to negotiate. She's here to send a message. What message? That you should have taken the deal. 45 minutes, Jiwoo's voice echoed through the building's communication system. Valth tightened his grip on Daewon's throat. How is she doing that? How is she in our systems? Vex's voice came through his personal communicator. Emperor, something is happening. Something's falling from the ship. Millions of objects. Too small to target. They're entering the atmosphere. What objects? I don't know. Sensors can barely track them. They're spreading across the entire capital city. In orbit, the dark ship had opened small ports along its hull. From these ports poured millions of objects too small to see. They fell through the atmosphere like rain, but they didn't burn up. They spread out, covering the city in an invisible cloud. Vex tried to scan them, but his equipment couldn't get a clear reading. They were too small, too fast, too many. All he could tell was that they were moving with purpose, landing on buildings, infiltrating ventilation systems, finding their way inside. What are they? He whispered. His computer screen flickered and went dark. Then it came back on, but now it showed something new. A message in simple English. Hello, Vex. You should have listened to the Vrin. Jiwoo. Vex felt cold spread through his body. She was in their systems, all of them. The tiny objects, whatever they were, had infiltrated every computer network on the planet. 30 minutes, Jiwoo's voice said. Final warning. Bring Captain Daewon to the landing platform unharmed. Last chance, Emperor Valth screamed in frustration and threw Daewon to the ground. Activate all defenses. Lock down the entire fortress. Nobody gets in or out. Massive blast doors slammed shut throughout the Crimson Spire. Energy shields activated. Automated weapon systems came online. The fortress became a sealed box impenetrable from the outside. Valth smiled. Let her try to get in now. Daewon looked up from the floor, blood running from his lip. You really don't understand, do you? The time for getting in was over when you killed those 3 prisoners. Now she's not here to retrieve me. She's here to make sure everyone knows what happens when you hurt humans. 29 minutes, Jiwoo said. And then the lights went out. Not just in the command center, everywhere. The entire city went dark. Backup generators kicked in after a moment, but they too flickered and died. The fortress was black except for emergency lights. She's in everything, Vex said quietly, alone in his dark office. Every system, every network, every computer. We're not fighting a ship. We're fighting something that's already inside. Daewon sat in the dark command center and waited. 29 minutes until the Kelthari learned a lesson they would never forget. The hour passed in darkness and fear. Emperor Valth stood in his command center, surrounded by guards with weapons drawn. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. Nothing worked properly. Communications were dead. Sensors showed random data. Even the simple door controls were unresponsive. Report, Valth shouted into the darkness. Someone tell me what's happening. Nobody answered because nobody knew. In his office, Vex watched his screens flicker with cascading system failures. The tiny objects Jiwoo had released were everywhere now. In the air ducts, in the power lines, in the water systems. They were too small to see, but he could track their effects. Every computer network was compromised. Every automated system was under her control. His screen changed again. Another message. Time's up, Vex. Stay in your office. What happens next isn't for the curious. Vex sat back in his chair. He had a choice. Follow orders and die with everyone else. Or trust the human who had just invaded an entire planet by herself. He stayed in his office. The main doors of the Crimson Spire were 3 feet of solid metal, reinforced with energy shielding. They were designed to withstand orbital bombardment. 1,000 guards stood ready behind them, weapons aimed, waiting for the human to try to break through. The doors opened, not forced, not blasted. They just slid open smoothly, like someone had used the proper access code. The guards stared in confusion. Their commander shouted orders to fire, but when they pulled their triggers, nothing happened. Their weapons were dead. Jiwoo walked through the open doors. She was smaller than they expected. Just a woman in a black uniform with no armor, no helmet, no visible weapons. She looked like she was taking an evening walk, not invading a fortress. The guards dropped their useless weapons and charged her with bare hands. There were 100 of them in the entrance hall. Trained warriors. Elite soldiers. They fell not all at once. One by one, as they reached her, they simply collapsed. Their legs gave out. Their eyes rolled back. They dropped to the floor like puppets with cut strings. Jiwoo walked through them without slowing down, without even looking at them. She headed for the central staircase. More guards waited there. Same result. They tried to stop her and fell unconscious. Whatever the tiny objects were, they were inside these soldiers now, in their bloodstreams, in their brains. Waiting for Jiwoo's command, she climbed the stairs. Behind her, hundreds of elite guards lay sleeping on the floors, their nervous systems temporarily shut down. Not dead, just removed from the equation. On the 13th floor, Commander Crothar waited with 50 more soldiers. He'd heard the reports. He knew what was happening. He'd ordered his men to seal the stairwell with a mobile barrier and wait. When Jiwoo reached their level, Crothar activated the barrier. A wall of solid energy blocked the stairs. You'll get no further, human, he said through the barrier's speaker system. This shield can stop a tank round. Jiwoo looked at the barrier. She reached out and touched it with one hand. The energy wall flickered and died. She stepped through where it had been. That's impossible, Crothar whispered. Jiwoo stopped in front of him. Your emperor had 72 hours. He chose violence. Now I'm here. You can walk away or you can fall like the others. Your choice. Krothar reached for his sidearm. It fell apart in his hand, pieces clattering to the floor. The tiny objects had infiltrated even that. Nothing was safe from them. Walk away, Jiwoo said again. Krothar looked at his men, saw the fear in their eyes, made a choice. Fall back, he ordered. Everyone fall back. The soldiers retreated, leaving the path clear. Jiwoo continued up the stairs. She knew exactly where Daewon was. The tiny machines had mapped the entire building. They'd found him on the top floor, surrounded by guards held by the Emperor himself. She knew the layout. She knew how many enemies. She knew everything. The elevator shaft would be faster than stairs. Jiwoo stepped into an empty elevator. It had no power, but she didn't need power. She looked up at the emergency hatch in the ceiling. It opened by itself. She climbed through and began ascending the shaft, moving hand over hand up the cables. On the top floor, Emperor Valth held a blade to Daewon's throat. 50 elite guards surrounded them in a circle. The Emperor's personal guard, the best warriors in the Empire. She can't defeat all of us, Valth said, though he sounded less certain now. Even if she gets past the others, 50 elite guards will stop her. Vex's voice crackled through a half-working communicator. Emperor, she's in the building. Everyone who's tried to stop her is unconscious. She's not fighting. She's just walking through them. Then we kill the prisoner. Valth pressed the blade harder. A drop of blood ran down Daewon's neck. The moment she enters this room, I'll cut his throat. She'll have failed. Daewon looked at the Emperor with tired eyes. You still don't understand. She's not just here to rescue me. She's here to teach you a lesson. The elevator doors opened. Jiwoo stepped out. She looked at the 50 guards, at the Emperor, at Daewon with the blade at his throat. Her expression didn't change. Let him go, she said simply. Or what? Valth laughed, a harsh sound. You'll kill us all? I don't think so. You came here to rescue him. If you attack, he dies. I came here to show you the price of harming humans. Daewon's rescue is secondary. Jiwoo took a step forward. Last chance. Let him go. Kill her. Valth screamed. The guards rushed forward. All 50 at once, weapons drawn, moving with the precision of trained killers. Jiwoo raised her hand. A small device on her wrist glowed. Every guard stopped mid-stride. Their weapons fell from limp hands. They collapsed in a circle around her, unconscious before they hit the ground. The tiny machines in their bloodstreams had activated all at once, shutting down their neural systems as cleanly as flipping a switch. Valth stared at the circle of fallen warriors. What? What are you? I'm what happens when you refuse to return our people. Jiwoo walked through the unconscious guards toward the Emperor. I'm what happens when you kill prisoners out of spite. I'm what happens when diplomacy fails. Valth held the blade tighter against Daewon's throat. Stay back or he dies. If you kill him, you die. And so does everyone else in this city. The machines I released aren't just in your guards. They're everywhere. In the water. In the air. In every living thing in your capital. Right now, they're harmless. But if Daewon dies, they activate fully. Your entire government, every military officer, every official who approved his capture, they all fall asleep and never wake up. Valth's hand trembled. You're bluffing. Try me. Jiwoo's voice was cold as ice. I came prepared for you to kill him. I hoped you wouldn't, but I prepared for it. Those 3 prisoners you executed, that changed this from a rescue to a reckoning. So go ahead, kill him. See what happens. For a long moment, nobody moved. Valth's blade pressed against skin. One quick motion and Daewon would be dead. The door burst open. Vex ran in, gasping for breath. Emperor, don't! I've been reading the reports. Every military installation on the planet is offline. Every weapon system. Every ship in orbit. She's not bluffing. She has control of everything. Liar, Valth shouted. You're a traitor. I'm trying to save our species. Vex looked at Jiwoo. If he releases the prisoner, will you restore our systems? Yes, Jiwoo said. And if he doesn't? I'll demonstrate what humans can do when we're truly angry. Vex turned to his Emperor. Please think of our people. Our empire. All of it will end if you don't let him go. Valth's face went through a dozen emotions. Pride, rage, fear. Finally, survival instinct won. He lowered the blade and pushed Daewon away from him. Daewon stumbled forward. Jiwoo caught him, checked him over with quick efficiency. Can you walk? Yeah, Daewon said hoarsely. I'm okay, Jiwoo looked at Vex. You made the right choice. Remember this day. Remember what happened here. Tell everyone. She touched her wrist device again. Throughout the city, power returned. Lights came back on. Computer systems rebooted. The darkness lifted, but in military installations across the planet, something else happened. Weapon systems exploded. Ammunition depots detonated. Ships in orbit lost power and began falling from the sky, guided away from population centers by the tiny machines still in their systems. The Kalthari military infrastructure was being systematically dismantled. What are you doing? Valth screamed. You said you'd restore our systems. I am. Civilian systems are fine. But your military? Jiwoo smiled coldly. That's the price. You captured one of ours. You tortured him. You killed 3 others. So now I'm taking away your ability to do it again. We'll rebuild. In a year, we'll be stronger than ever. Maybe. But everyone will know what happened here. They'll know that one human did this. They'll know what happens when you take our people. Some will learn from it. Others won't. But they'll all know. Jiwoo helped Daewon toward the elevator. Vex stepped aside to let them pass. As she walked by him, Jiwoo paused. You're smart, Vex, smarter than your leaders. Here's some advice. Build something other than weapons. The galaxy is changing. Then she was gone, taking Daewon with her, leaving behind an empire in chaos and an emperor who finally understood the cost of pride. The dark ship waited where Jiwoo had left it, floating in space above the Kalthari homeworld. What remained of the orbital fleet kept their distance, weapons powered down, watching nervously. Jiwoo helped Daewon through the streets. The capital city was in chaos. People ran in every direction. Fires burned in military districts where ammunition depots had exploded, but civilian areas were untouched. The destruction was precise, surgical. Did you have to destroy so much? Daewon asked as they walked. Jiwoo kept scanning the area, her hand ready on her wrist device. They killed 3 prisoners, Daewon, after we gave them a deadline. After we warned them. Yes, I had to. I know the protocol. I just hoped it wouldn't go this far. It always goes this far when they refuse. You know that, she glanced at him. Can you make it to the landing platform? It's 2 more blocks, I'll make it. They reached the platform. It was empty except for a few abandoned vehicles. The Kalthari guards who'd been stationed there had fled. In the sky above, the dark ship descended, moving smoothly through the atmosphere. It landed without a sound. The boarding ramp extended. Jiwoo helped Daewon up the ramp and into the ship's interior. It was strange inside. The walls seemed to shift and move like they were alive. Lights glowed from no visible source. Everything was smooth and dark and alien. What is this ship? Daewon asked, settling into a seat that formed itself to his body. The Revenant, 1 of 12. Built specifically for retrieval operations. Jiwoo moved to the control panel. Her hands danced across surfaces that responded to her touch. We couldn't keep sending fleets every time someone captured our people. Too expensive, too slow, too many casualties. So we built these instead. Small, fast, nearly impossible to destroy. Each one operated by a single specialist. A Reaper. Jiwoo smiled slightly. They told you about that. I have high clearance. I read the files. Most of them were redacted, but I got the basic idea. Daewon winced as the ship's medical scanner examined him. How many of you are there? 12, 1 for each ship. We train for years. Learn every combat system, every computer language, every infiltration technique. And we carry the nanomachines. The swarm, the tiny things you released. Yes, they're the real weapon. Each one is a microscopic computer linked to millions of others. Together they can infiltrate any system, control any technology, even interact with biological nervous systems. Non-lethal if we choose. Instantly lethal if we don't. Daewon was quiet for a moment. They made you into a weapon. They made me into a message. Jiwoo looked at him. When diplomacy fails, we need something that tells the galaxy, don't hurt humans. The cost is too high. That's what Reapers are. Living warnings. The ship lifted off smoothly. Below them, the Kalthari capital burned in carefully controlled fires. Only military targets. Only strategic locations. The message was clear. As they rose through the atmosphere, Daewon looked at the planet shrinking below. How many casualties? 43,206, Jiwoo said without hesitation. All military personnel. 0 civilians. The nanomachines are very precise. 43,000. Daewon closed his eyes. Because of me. No, because they refused to let you go. Because they tortured you. Because they killed 3 other prisoners to show their strength. Jiwoo's voice was firm. You don't get to take responsibility for their choices. They broke orbit. The Kalthari fleet didn't try to stop them. They watched the dark ship leave, grateful to see it go. Once they were clear of the system, Jiwoo activated the long-range transmitter. This is Reaper 7 to Earth Command. Package retrieved. Mission complete. Returning home, a voice crackled back. Confirmed, Reaper 7, well done. Broadcasting now. Broadcasting what? Daewon asked. Jiwoo pulled up a display. It showed camera feeds from the entire operation. Her walking through the fortress. Guards falling. The confrontation with Emperor Valth. The systematic destruction of military assets. Earth had recorded everything. We're sending this to every species in known space, Jiwoo explained. Public record. So everyone knows what happened here. So they know what happens when you take our people. Daewon watched the footage play. He saw himself with a blade at his throat. Saw Jiwoo's calm face as she threatened an entire planet. Saw the fires burning across the Kalthari capital. Is this who we are now? He asked quietly. Species that destroys anyone who wrongs us? We've always been that species, Daewon. We just hid it better before we reached the stars. Jiwoo sat down across from him. But look at the alternative. If we showed weakness, if we let them keep you, torture you, kill you, what message does that send? That humans are easy prey? That we don't protect our own? How many more humans would be captured then? I suppose you're right. I don't like it either. But it works. After this, how many species do you think will risk taking a human prisoner? Daewon had no answer to that. The journey home took 3 days. The Revenant moved faster than normal ships, slipping through space in ways Daewon didn't understand. Jiwoo spent most of the time monitoring communications, watching the galaxy's reaction to the footage. The responses were varied. Some species expressed outrage at Earth's actions. Others remained silent, calculating. A few sent quiet messages of support. The Vryn Collective sent a simple note. We tried to warn them. Emperor Valth gave one interview before going into hiding. His face was gaunt, his eyes haunted. We thought humans were soft, he said. We thought their kindness meant weakness. We were wrong. We were so terribly wrong. On the 3rd day, they reached Earth orbit. A small escort of ships met them, guided the Revenant to a military station. When the boarding ramp extended, a full honor guard waited along with medical teams and officers. They took Daewon immediately to the medical bay. Jiwoo watched him go, then reported to her commander, a stern woman named Admiral Kang. Clean operation, Admiral Kang said, reviewing the data. Minimal casualties, maximum impact. The whole galaxy is talking about it. That was the point, Jiwoo said. Some people are calling you a war criminal. Some people called us weak for asking nicely first. Can't please everyone. Admiral Kang smiled slightly. Get some rest, Reaper 7. We'll debrief tomorrow. Jiwoo went to her quarters. They were small, simple, empty. She'd lived out of ships and stations for so long that she'd forgotten what a real home felt like. She sat on her bed and stared at the wall. 43,000 dead. All soldiers, all complicit in Daewon's torture, but still, 43,000 lives ended because she'd pressed a button. But they'd killed 3 prisoners. They'd refused every chance to do the right thing. They'd chosen this. She lay down and closed her eyes. Sleep came eventually. A month later, Daewon had recovered enough to walk without pain. They gave him a new assignment, a new ship, a promotion. He accepted all of it, but something had changed in him. He'd seen what humans could do when pushed too far. Jiwoo visited him before he shipped out. They met in a quiet cafe on the station, drinking coffee that cost too much. How are you doing? She asked. Better. The nightmares are fading. Daewon looked at her. You? Same as always. Waiting for the next call. Has there been one? Not yet. Your rescue has made quite an impression. 17 species have reached out to review their prisoner exchange protocols. 3 have released human prisoners we didn't even know they had. Turns out the threat of a Reaper visit is very motivating. Daewon stirred his coffee. I got a message from Vex, the Kalthari intelligence officer. He said their empire is rebuilding, but differently now. Focusing more on trade than conquest. They're afraid. Good. Fear keeps people honest. Jiwoo looked out the window at the stars. I know you're struggling with what happened. What it cost to bring you home. But ask yourself this. Would you rather we'd left you there? No. Would you rather we'd sent a fleet, fought a war, lost thousands of our own people in a battle? No. Then what I did was necessary. Not good, not heroic, just necessary. She finished her coffee. The galaxy is full of predators, Day One. We're just showing them that humans can be predators too when we need to be. She stood to leave. Day One caught her hand. Thank you. For coming for me. For not leaving me there? Jiwoo squeezed his hand once. We never leave anyone behind. That's not who we are. She left. Day One sat alone, finishing his coffee, thinking about predators and prey and the price of survival. 6 months later, a package arrived at Vex's office on the Kaltheri homeworld. Inside was a simple coin, black metal with a strange design. On one side was the image of the Revenant. On the other, words in Kaltheri. You made the right choice. Vex kept the coin on his desk. A reminder, a warning, a promise the Kaltheri Empire never took another human prisoner. Neither did most of the galaxy. A few species tried in the years that followed. Each time a dark ship appeared. Each time a Reaper came, and each time the message was received. Earth protected its own always, without exception, without mercy for those who forgot. The Reapers became legends, ghosts in black ships that appeared when humans were threatened. Most people never saw them. They only heard the stories, watched the footage, learned the lessons written in the ruins of those who'd tested Earth's resolve. Day One eventually retired from active duty. He taught at the military academy, training new officers, telling them about the protocols and the prices.